Welcome back, YouTube. So I've done something that I consider pretty redonkulous. So for you, I guess it's been maybe 5 or 6 seconds from the last video you watched to click on this one. But for me, it's been, I don't know, an hour and a half or so of technical difficulties. I've tried to get the picture on my phone here so you can have a much better view of what's going on. But it turns out that my phone is a piece of junk. So I had a couple of false alarms in which I actually painted this guy, pretty much completed him, only to discover that I lost the recording. So what I did was a big no-no, and I went back over him in gray paint to kind of restore him to his previous state. So he's losing detail pretty rapidly. Sorry, Wolf. But it is for the sake of education, and, you know, it's one model. I'll make one slightly less detailed model for the sake of showing my YouTube friends how to create something this magnificent. No. But it looks like I finally got this camera back online, so we can start really painting this guy and getting good detail. I'm going to pause this and let him finish drying before we get started. Or actually, you know what we're going to do? We're going to discuss. So what I'm going to use is this Citadel Shade Nuln Oil. It's a greasy looking, really thin black paint. You see? It's black. It's hard to see, but you can see that it's in there, and it's very thin. But that's what we're going to use to go over what we have. It's going to go down in all these little cracks, and he's going to have black highlights that'll look an awful lot like this. And I know in the camera light, it kind of looks like it's just shadow, which is really what you want. I mean, you shouldn't really be able to distinguish what's shadow and what is artificial. Shows up a little better there. I mean, of course, there's natural shadows happening too, but you're going to see how we get some of that detail here. Is he dry enough yet? Now, if you don't feel like running out and spending $4 on this Citadel shade, then you can always make your own at home, which in a video that was destroyed I kind of demonstrated. We just used a little bit of black and several drops of plain water, any water. Even if you have, you know, brown looking paint water, it doesn't matter because it's black. But you just kind of get a few drops, drop it in there and mix it around, and you've got your own shade. I don't think it's as good or as thin as the Citadel, but the difference really, especially for a beginner, the difference is going to be minimal. The other thing is that this shade is oily looking. It looks greasy, and I kind of want a greasy looking wolf. But if you're learning, nothing wrong with just mixing up a thin black paint. Is he dry? Yeah, we're going to go for it. I don't really think he's completely dry, but yeah. This is an art, not a science. Whoa. Alright. So for this, you just want to load your brush, and it doesn't take a whole lot. It really doesn't take a whole lot because the stuff is just going to want to absorb into the bristles of your brush. And when you go over it, see how that black just settles into the cracks there. See that? So the ridges, the higher areas of the model, they make the paint run off. And then the valleys, the lower areas, actually will let the black pool in there. So you get just this really cool shadow effect. It makes it look like you know what you're doing. But really, there's no need to know what you're doing at all, because the paint knows what it's doing. So this is the effect that you get from very thin paints. Now, as you might have already surmised, the opposite is true of very dry paint. If you have a dry paint, instead of running off and going into the cracks and valleys of the model, they're going to stay on the ridges and the high points. And that is actually the third step of the painting process, the highlighting and dry brushing. And that's also just this easy. There, how about that? It is important to remember that your model is, of course, the light is going to be coming down from above, always. So if you do a really good job of making shadows on the top part of your model, but the bottom is light colored, it's going to look really weird and unnatural. It's going to look like he's uplit, which might be dramatic, but doesn't really make any sense. Yeah, there we go. So we're going to let him dry a little, then we're going to come back.